Hello, welcome to Tales Under the Cat Tree. My name is Dileepa Wijewardena, better known as Dupes. In this podcast, we will explore the wonderful worlds created by the power of words, from life and technology to fiction and the future, through articles, stories, interviews, and more. If you like this episode, please take the time to subscribe to this podcast, as I would like to get to know you better. You can visit me at tales.dupes.ca for more. It was a Monday in 1996, and Sue had had enough. The coffee shop had given her the wrong order. Her boss had handed her a full box of legal papers in the elevator, and as she sat down at her desk, she saw the note saying her desk was about to be moved next to the toilet. Sue was wishing that she had claimed a sick day when the computer pinged with an incoming email, the first of the day. "This is not a joke. Open it. Or pay the price," screamed the email subject line. Her mouse moved purely by reflex while her mind was already throwing up in disgust and barking, "Not another bloody chain letter." This one read, "Sue McClanahan, this is for real. Do not delete this email. Today you've been chosen. As long as this message is in your inbox, nothing will happen. But if you delete this message, the powers that be will permanently delete one electronic message every day until you die. We're serious. Want to make double sure that never happens? Send this to 5 of your closest friends." Sue snorted. A couple of faces glared from across the cubicles. She pursed her lips and pressed the delete button. Sue probably didn't notice much over the next many years, maybe not even a decade. If she had put it all together, had she ever looked back, she would have noticed the hints. A guy claimed she had refused to respond to his email, which she had never seen, and that led to their breakup. But then again, he had also been a complete narcissist with a slight edge of bipolar disorder, served with a side dish of mushrooms. Then there were the many missed work emails, legal documents that had never arrived, unknown replies to queries, and once in a while, office memes that she seemed to be the only one left out of the loop on. Successive IT people had even given her various unflattering nicknames, though the only one that seemed to stick was Bermuda Triangle Sue. Try as they might, and they really did try, there were no traces of the email she claimed to have received or lost. So much went unnoticed. Sue never found out about the acceptance to her dream job. She had thought the company had passed her by. There was at least one apartment she had coveted for which she never saw the approval. Of course, not everything was negative. She also never received the angry email from the downstairs neighbor when she had played 12 hours of Gotcha Somebody That I Used to Know on repeat during one breakup-fueled ice cream binge-eating session that lasted until 3 a.m. After a while, Sue had decided she was just not cut out for this purely electronic world. If the problems had only stuck to email, she might have coped, but the problems stretched to instant messaging apps and social media. Her world was one now where she had a system for filing every important message in at least 3 or 4 different places and several different flash drives, and her house was piled high with printed emails. Her cubicle resembled a patchwork quilt of post-it notes that only she could decipher. Perhaps the final nail was the court case where she lost the email evidence of which there was only one single copy. Or perhaps it was the many complaints from her co-workers that she now resembled a disheveled crone muttering to herself. Or perhaps it was her inordinate expenses on the printer. Whatever the reason, the day finally came when her boss had had enough and referred her to therapy. The psychiatrist's recommendation was insistent that she receive specialized treatment away from society. Sue McClanahan suffers from an obsessive-compulsive disorder surrounding electronic documents and an irrational fear of items in her life being deleted. After months away, she emerged from a therapy cocoon free from dark circles around her eyes. Her psychiatrist's release papers stated, "Sue McClanahan can return to work after a much-needed holiday to complement the wonderful success of the therapy. We suggest somewhere warm, sunny, and out of the country." So it was that a tanned Sue returned home. Wearing a loud dress and a brilliant smile, she stepped in front of the immigration officer at the airport, ready to take on the world. The officer's eyes kept darting between Sue's face, her passport, and his computer. "Ma'am, who are you?" "Sue. Susan McClanahan, like it says on my passport," she responded. "Ma'am, I need you to step this way. I know what your passport says, but as far as I can see, you don't exist in the computer system. Exactly who are you?" The story you just listened to is called The Chain Letter, and I wrote it specifically for this podcast episode. When I was a teen, on a trip to Sri Lanka, we went to visit some of the ancient cities whose ruins you find peppered throughout that island. Some of these ruins are over a couple thousand years old. Walking through them with my father, I asked him the same question I have since repeated to myself in France, in Spain, England, and countless other places. Where are the ruins of the ordinary people? Who tells their stories? Unfortunately, the sands of time swirl in a way that continually obscures, removes, and changes the voices and existence of people. When you study an event or a person, you stretch your hand back into the past and derive massive conclusions from minuscule shreds of evidence. Worse, we examine and understand the past through a flawed lens of our present context. A leader considered terrible during their lifetime might now be revered as a hero due to our present beliefs of what is good. The amount of sources available to us from the past is extremely limited and often preserves the voices of the rich, powerful, or otherwise, quote-unquote, important. In going through our day-to-day lives, this feels like a problem that we have solved. That today, the amount of data and content will surely mean that the voices of you and me, of the random person on the street, will actually matter and survive into the future. For the first time in history, there are written records of all our venting, pictures of what we ate on any given morning, Reddit posts of the troubles we've had, along with what seems like a seemingly bottomless pit of video. We would all be forgiven for thinking that we had solved this problem, and we would all be wrong. Already, some quarter of the original internet has disappeared and is no longer online. I would hazard a guess that another large portion might exist, but in a different form and edited from its original material. Even the Internet Archive can only keep so much. The Internet Archive now holds 835 billion web pages, if you are just looking at that type of content. A copy of the known Internet now resembles 145 petabytes of data and growing. Think about that. 1 petabyte is 1,000 terabytes. So if you have 1 terabyte storage computer, you would need 145,000 of them. That's no small task. I would imagine it's not even capturing the true breadth of content on private or semi-private systems, anything behind logins, and so on. When I was researching my own technological journey over the past 30 years, the Internet Archive only had a fraction of the writing I had put online, a fraction of the photos that I had posted, and it goes deeper. You would think I would have access to that writing on disks. Probably yes, but the formats have changed. Some of these disks have simply just died. Perhaps they're on an old email address. Absolutely likely, but I've lost access to the passwords and ability to reset them. Then there are all the ephemeral things that mattered to me which I never bothered to digitize at all. Negatives, VHS tapes of our fan fiction movie based on 1971's Shaft called Shaft on the Rock. Yes, that was a real thing, and more. Even all this pales in comparison when you realize that just a few companies in the world own and store all the content we create. When you buy games digitally, you would expect them to work forever. That's simply not true. The very first game that I ever had my name attached to is Neverwinter Nights by BioWare Corporation. In order to play online, the game needed to connect to something called the master server. This was a singularly compact piece of software originally written almost entirely by one single amazing programmer and friend, Andrew. Who keeps such a thing running in perpetuity after sales of the game have collapsed? Luckily, in this case, a company of ex-Biowareans, Beamdog, did continue running the software needed to connect for the enhanced editions of the game after GameSpy ended support. But in many cases, the systems that allow other systems, Creative Works, and so on, to even be available go away forever on the whim of economics and even the practices of companies. In this case, gamers are rising up in protest and holding some of these companies to account. Your email, documents, and pictures are also not yours. They may be yours by copyright, but if tomorrow the service they are hosted on were turned off or you were blocked from access, they are gone from you forever unless you happen to have a backup. I am sure most of the world functions on mobile systems without backups and relies entirely on the various companies' cloud services. As humans, we tend to predict the future based on the present. Our present ability to provide electricity to these systems and the geopolitics that allow these pipes to work around the world, for example, just don't seem to be a problem. Will that continue? Your guess is as good as mine. How do you feel as parts of history disappear and get changed? Wikipedia, for example, relies on online sources that are continuously changing. They who control the sources control the narrative of any event that you read about. Does that mean you can change the past? Yes. We are already rewriting, without knowing it, the history of our present. If it were not for passion projects such as the invaluable Internet Archive, reality would swirl too readily into the foggy past. The story I wrote, The Chain Letter, plays upon the trope of a forgotten type of viral email that we all received back in the 90s. I wanted to encapsulate what is happening on the internet as content slowly disappears into the psyche of one single person. If tomorrow your digital world disappears through no fault of your own, would anyone know who you are? In a world with so much digital content, we have come to accept and call commonplace something that is quite remarkable. Should a disaster happen today that removes our access to all that data, we would actually be not far removed from our ancestors, whom we sometimes condescendingly refer to as primitive. I wonder if someday a child looks at the ruins of our many buildings, sees the scattered computer pieces, maybe even flickering screens in an unknowable language, and asks their parents, who were these people? It may be that again, the works and voices of the ordinary, like you and me, will continue to remain silent and forgotten. Thank you for listening to episode 12 of the Tales Under the Cat Tree podcast. For this episode, I want to again thank my amazing writing group, the Chapter Chasers, especially Liz and Paul for getting me feedback on The Chain Letter. I hope one day you will hear from my writing group here on this podcast. They are, to put it mildly, simply amazing. I would also encourage you, as I have done, to donate to the Internet Archive so that they can continue doing the good work they do. I know that there are a number of you who listen to this podcast, and I am immensely touched that you do. I never thought that I would reach 12 episodes and want to continue, but I do. It is because of the kind messages that I receive in public and in private that keep me going. If you believe that this is a podcast or writing that deserves for others to see, please do share it. It would mean a lot to me, and to the many friends who help me, listen to me, and will come on the show in the future. Talking of which, I'm always looking for ideas, guests, and more. This podcast is a journey for me as much as for the listener. Through these episodes and my conversations, I am learning about myself and the world that I move through. If you would like to be on the podcast, have original writing you want to feature, or just want to chat with me, please do get in touch. The picture associated with this podcast today is from Chernobyl, taken by me in 2019. More photos of Chernobyl during that trip are available from my photo site at photos.dupes.ca. You can reach me through email, contact@dups.ca, bluesky@dups.ca, or on my Substack and this post at tales.dupes.ca. Remember to subscribe so I can get to know you better and learn from you. Give your pet a cuddle and your loved ones a hug till we meet again for some Tales Under the Cat Tree.